All right, guys, welcome back to the Couch Critics MMA podcast. We're joined now by another returning guest on the show, Colby the Golden Boy Thicknesse, back to talk all things UFC 267 and UFC 268 this weekend. There's a bunch to digest from last weekend, and then there's a bunch more this weekend. I feel like this weekend coming up is probably the most stacked card of the year. But we'll get into that. But first, we've got to get into last weekend's early UFC 267. Started at like 1:30. I don't know if you had your alarm set. Were you watching the prelims?
Nah, man. I got up around I think 5:30 to watch for. I just missed the Hamza fight because I sort of slept through my first alarm. Ended up getting up around 5:30, so I caught a rest. But funny enough, my fucking twin was actually out partying, so he ended up staying up and just kicking on through and watching all the fights. So I got updates from like 1 a.m. till like 5 o'clock when I was up about what was going down. So I pretty much got filled in anyway.
Bro, I seen his Instagram story. He was watching Hamza. He was blind, bro.
Oh, he was done for, eh? He was done.
Crack up.
That's a reason to keep going, though. Fuck, what a card, man. What a card.
Oh, man.
There's a bunch to digest, man, like I said, and we'll pump through the first few fights. So we'll start at the top, man. The light heavyweight championship was on the line with Jan Blachowicz and Glover Teixeira. And, man, Glover got it done with a round 2 sub. Pretty dominant fashion, man. And it felt kind of like all was good in the world for me personally.
It was so bittersweet, huh?
Yeah,
to see Glover win was so good, and see Jan lose is sad. But
100%. How was it? How was it for you? Were you happy to see it end and Glover finally getting that luxurious UFC title?
Yeah, man, like it's the sort of guy like Glover, you can't not help but sort of feel good to see with Blake's like the actual like up and downs of the career trajectory that he's been through. Like you want to see like as much as you hate to see someone like Jan lose, who's such a good guy, like him losing to someone like Glover, you can't help. Like I was happy for like the rest of the day. Like that first round when he took him down and held him down, I was like, Glover can do this for the next 4 rounds. I think he can win him. And in that second round where he got him down, passed straight to side control and got to mount, I was like, fuck, he might get it done here. And then got to the mount, got the choke under his chin, man. I was cheering, I was celebrating. Like, it's just, I don't think there was anybody else pretty much besides like Alex, obviously because I have that mutual connection, but anyone like from a sort of just a fighter from the outside perspective, I don't think there's anyone else I ever sort of wanted to see win a belt as much as Glover. Just for like I said, just that sort of career where the ups and downs, it just sort of proves like if you stick to it and you keep putting in the work, eventually you can sort of get to the end goal of being a champ.
100%.
It's like the Bisping when he got to his gold. It's like whether you love him or hate him, which a lot of people hated Bisping, you're happy to see it at the end.
It's earned. It's well earned.
It is,
yeah.
man. The roller coaster of a long career, finally getting to that gold. But were you surprised that it was that dominant by Glover? Did you see that route to victory, obviously taking Jan to the ground and getting the submission there? Did you think it would come that easy to Glover?
Honestly, no. Like Jan said something interesting. He said he left his like polished power in the hotel room. So I don't know if he was feeling off or something like that during the fight. He may have, but I thought if Glover was to get the win, I thought it might have been like the last few where he ended up getting rocked pretty badly and the guy might overcommit and he gets him that way. But pretty much like I don't think Jan really hurt him in any of the exchanges or anything. And Glover pretty much just well-timed shot took him down and implemented his game plan. It worked perfectly. I thought Jan would have had better defense on the ground, to be honest, purely because I saw what he was doing to Izzy. So obviously his top control is that. But then again, we haven't seen him very active off his bottom. Like in the first round, holding the guard and sort of staying there defending, who was doing fine by not letting Glover pass. But in the second round, I thought he may have had a few more defensive answers, but it goes to show and prove how good Glover's jiu-jitsu is. So him just sort of like, he pretty much went in the second round, pardon me, pretty much sliced him like a knife through butter in a sense. Like got him down, passed the legs, get to side, got on top, threw some shots, gave the neck and submitted him fairly quickly for a finishing sequence.
Yeah, do you reckon Glover, he looks kind of like unassuming. The strength of him, I feel like he's super strong. I don't know if it's that old man strength that you feel at jiu-jitsu, them old dudes that just have that fucking vice grip. But yeah, Jan is massive and he's strong. Like as you said, we've seen against Izzy, but man, he got like ragdolled. As soon as Glover grabbed him, it was like, you're stuck. You're not getting away.
Yeah, I think he does have that sort of like that real freakish look. And not that Jan would have underestimated him, but I don't know. I feel like there's a certain level in preparation. If Jan was fighting a 28-year-old killer who was 10-0 on an unbeaten streak, looking like he may have been that bit more alert. He may not have sort of left his Polish power. He might, in that hotel, he may have been on from the get-go. But somewhere against Glover, I feel like he's just that deceptive character. Like, oh, he might start slow. He's an older dude. He's going to sort of slow grind me up. But then for him to sort of just get through Jan how he did this, man, is impressive.
Fuck yeah.
For sure. And obviously the man that was waiting in the wings in the building was Jiri Prakashna, obviously next in line for Glover at the light heavyweight there. And talking about a young buck, man, he's as young and crazy and as exciting as it gets. So what do you think of that matchup? Personally, it felt like I thought Glover I wasn't sure if he was going to retire after that fight, like get the belt and retire, sail into the sunset. So I'm curious to see how these match up. I'm curious to get your thoughts on the matchup with Yuri.
Man, I was fortunate enough to watch Yuri live when he fought Reyes W Apex, and seeing him actually fight in person, like the energy he brings, like it's definitely something special and stuff like that. But the only thing is, he is very wild when he fights, and he hasn't fought a sort of a really grappling heavy guy like Glover. And I feel like Glover's path to success will be either where we have seen him get rocked, they overcommit and he takes him down, but purely because Yuri is so unorthodox in that he might throw that sort of unorthodox big looping shot or something. If Glover can time his takedowns, I think he will be pretty successful. After seeing what he'd done to Jan on the ground, I would be fairly certain in saying that Glover could probably submit Yuri pretty comfortably, if not almost TKO and finish him there. But then again, we see Yuri's power on the feet. Like he hits like an absolute truck. He's unpredictable. Right now, sort of going off how I saw the last fights, I would probably have to favor Glover by submission, purely off what we see. But I wouldn't be surprised if Yuri does get it done by just a sort of spectacular knockout.
I think it's got to be a shot like that for Yuri, because for Glover, man, I feel like with age, I don't know if it's the way with he rolls with the shots or something, but I feel like he can eat a shot better than he ever could.
He gets rocked. I think the recovery, like this, kind of like the Diaz, how he just takes his time and chills. So back in the day, I don't know if other people less experienced, you don't handle it as well, but because he's been rocked so many times, I don't know if that's a thing. But man, he fucking handles it like a G. You see against Anthony Smith, Santos as well, he just stays calm and then just destroys you.
I think it's like you said, it's that staying calm sort of thing, whereas the first time you get rocked, it's like your brain gets rattled and you just have sort of your equilibrium's out and you have no idea what's going on. But Glover's been there, so he can get sort of rocked. Not that you ever get familiar with it, but you get more comfortable being in that situation and you're smart with it. You're not going to try and engage on the feet in that. You're going to shoot back in for your shots. And I think that's where Glover's really sort of taken a shine, whereas you see a lot of these guys that get hurt, they try and hurt the guys back. But Glover's smart. He gets hurt. He shoots him for the clinch, which is where he's naturally the best, and also where he's staying a lot safer than he was to continue on the feet.
100.
Absolutely, man. We'll move down the card into the co-main event. I'm sure you're paying extra attention to this one. We had Peter Yan and Corey the Sandman Sandhagen. Peter Yan got it done. Unanimous decision all across the board. I wanted to know, man, how'd you score the fight? How'd you see the fight? Were you happy that it went that way? Did you think Peter got it done?
Yeah, I thought I was very confident that Peter got the decision. I was thinking either 3-2 or 4-1, depending. I think I had it down 4-1, but either way, the first one was definitely Corey's. 2 was a bit of a swing around, and the next 3 were definitely Jan. I thought it was just a sort of tremendous matchup of not just like of actual 2 good guys, but actually showcasing fighting ability. Like there was so many little details that I think the best way to describe the fight is that tremendous rewatch value, just not for the fight, but to actually like technical study it and watch like how Jan got the reads early. Sandhagen made the correct adjustments, but Jan adjusted to his adjustments. And from there, once Jan sort of saw everything Sandhagen had, started to understand his unorthodox movement, and that was just pretty much a Jan show after that.
And it's a story of all of his fights, though. Hey, it feels like I feel like he's honestly one of the highest fight IQ in the UFC with the way he makes reads the first 2 rounds. He almost always loses the first round, even against Aldo, even against Urijah Faber. And then, he catches wind towards the back end of the fight, especially in the 5-rounders, which I think suit him to a T. But for Sandman, I think, man, like, does anything need to change for him? I feel like he's right in there in these close fights. Like, you look at him with TJ, you look at him with Jan, he just gets etched out. I don't know if that's going to come with experience, being able to close these fights out, or I guess does it just prove how top heavy the elites are at the bantamweight that anyone can just get it done on the day?
I think it comes down to anyone can get done, but also the sort of stylistic matchups. Like, I don't think someone like Corey with his style, it's very unorthodox, it's hard to read. But like we saw with TJ, Corey's, if you can sort of nullify what he does and just sort of grind him out and just beat him through the punchline, you can sort of almost shut him out because he's very unorthodox. He throws a lot of volume. Even though he does have the sort of spectacular knockouts like the flying knee and the spinning back kicks and that, he doesn't actually have a lot of sting in his actual punches sort of thing. Like, Jan hurt Corey a lot more in the exchanges than Corey hurt him. You saw Corey landed a lot more significant strikes in, I think, almost every round of the last 4 rounds, but Jan still won because instead of going pitter-patter sort of thing, Jan was really stepping in the shots. Perfect example was when Jan did the jab, step through cross, step back to the jab, and he walked him almost halfway across the mat with 3 straight punches sort of thing. Whereas Corey wasn't able to do that sort of stuff to Jan, whereas Jan was able to do it to Corey. So I think maybe developing a bit more pop in his shots. But then again, you can always say, like, he does have the pop with the flying knees, the spinning back kicks and that. But if that's going to be your sort of options against someone like Jan, who's so defensively sound with his hands up, making a reads in that early, I think Jan's a very hard guy to finish in a sort of spectacular fashion, the way he finished Frankie or Marlon Moraes. I think he's the sort of guy you're going to have to either commit to beat him over 5 rounds or just going to have to sort of try and outpace him, out-adjust him, which is, I don't know if there's anyone in the 135 division who can do that.
I agree. I feel like Petian could almost fight for like hours on end with his style. Like, he's so defensively sound and he's so like conservative of his gas tank. I feel like everyone just, after the 3rd, 4th, they just wilt. And it was interesting to see that for Corey. But for me, man, it feels good. Like, I was stoked when that fight got announced, Petian and Corey, after like Corey taking the TJ fight, which he didn't really need to take. So I was glad to see him get his shot at a title. But now I look at it like Corey's lost to Aljo, he's lost to Petian, he's lost to TJ. It looks like Petian and Aljo are going to get matched up now. What's sort of next for Corey? Does he wait for TJ to heal, and would TJ take that second fight, or is TJ going to sit out for the winner of Aljo and Petian? I'm interested in what you think of the landscape at 35 now.
I think TJ will probably, I think it would be smart, and I think he will want to sit out for the Sterling and Jan fight. I do think Jan takes that pretty comfortably. I don't see any adjustments that Sterling can really make to sort of get it done. So then I wouldn't be surprised if they do Dillashaw or Jan, and I'm fairly confident in the same sort of thing. Dillashaw might get that first round against Jan, but I'm pretty sure Jan's just going to run away with it sort of thing. But for Corey, I think maybe against it's going to be hard because then you have Rob Font and Aldo coming up. Maybe give him the loser of that, because then obviously the winner of that might want to go on. Or you can give him someone even a bit further down the rankings, like a Cheetah Vera or someone like that, to sort of try and get him that win back, get his confidence back, and sort of get his streak going again.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think, Cheetah's fighting this weekend with Frankie, so that could...
Frankie, yeah.
Yeah, that could be an interesting... He could get the winner of that. If it's Cheetah, I don't think I'd like to see him versus Frankie again. But you pretty much answered my last question on that. With Petian and Aljamain, I wanted to see if you think there could have been any adjustments that Aljo can make in his time off, and you answered it pretty clearly there. So we might shoot down the card, man, to our one Anzac that was on the card. Dan Hooker, that unfortunately come up short against Islam Makhachev. Pretty dominant when the fight hit the ground, man. I want to get your thoughts on it. Did you see it going that way? Did you think that Islam would be that dominant and controlling once it did get Dan down? And did you think it would be over that quickly?
To be honest, I was thinking Dan would have, obviously it's hard to say, but I thought Dan would have been able to stop the takedown, especially in that first round. I thought he would have been not better with his range, but able to use it more successfully. And then when he did get him down, I thought he would have been able to create the scrambles and anything more. But obviously Islam is sort of like as legit as they come sort of thing. He's obviously on that next level, like shutting down someone like Dan Hooker like that, which is just incredibly hard. We've never seen Dan getting held down like that. And even the way he was able to control, slowly pass the legs, attack the Kimura, bring the leg over the head, and then attempt to finish that way, and all a very sort of controlled, methodical, not letting anything get to him, and he just sort of had the goal, got him down, and just followed the game plan to a T. Like, even though it sucks to see Dan, like someone like Dan lose, you've got to respect Islam for like the caliber of fighter he is, and being able to do something like that to Dan Hooker.
For sure. And I think it's a shame because I kind of looked at Dan Holden, probably one of the biggest threats to Islam in that top 5, just because of how he works with his knees, man. Them knees, like you look at his Ross Pearson, Jim Miller knockout, it's like, man, if he can, catch Islam coming in like that, that's game. But it was a shame to see it go that way. But you pretty much touched on it there. I wanted to ask, do you think Islam has the potential like he gets the credit for, like the DC and Habib? They've been on his boat since Habib was the champion. Do you think he's starting to prove that, starting to warrant that hype he's been getting off them guys?
Yeah, definitely. I wasn't too sure. I think the only problem with the hype he was getting is that obviously you sort of see the hype compared to the level of competition. Then it's always easy to hype guys up against when they've obviously aren't fighting the sort of top 15, top 10, top 5 guys. But after seeing what he done to Dan, obviously like it is what they true say about. I think I heard somewhere they're saying that Khabib's hardest rounds were against Islam in the gym. And you can obviously see why. Like, his striking's good, he's got the good fundamentals, and his like wrestling ground control is just, it's a Dagestani level. Like, you've got next levels, and you got fucking Dagestani level of wrestling. It's just elite.
And there's more to come, and they're just coming and coming and coming. It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
But where to for Islam now, man? He called for the title shot. I think he was ranked 5th going into this, and Dan was 6th. So where to for him? A name that I like is the Beneil Dariush. I think he's sitting at 3 or 4 there. So where do you think's next? Do you think he jumps straight to the title, or he takes on a guy like Beneil?
I want to see, there was sort of 3 main guys I want to see, but pretty much, actually, no, I'll say 2. It was either Burns, because I want to see him fight a legit jiu-jitsu competitor off his back who's been in there with good guys. So Dariush would be a perfect example. Good thing Dariush is actually I was talking to Craig Jones when the fights were happening, and we're just texting back and forth with a hooker fight. And afterwards, I even asked him, I was like, who do you think has, like, is there anyone who can have a grappling threat? And he said probably only Dariush, and he's trained with all the like best guys from like 155 to like 205, and even this was back when we were from Ultimate Fighter, and he even said, I asked him, I was like, who has the best like sort of jiu-jitsu, or not even jiu-jitsu, but ground game you've trained with out of MMA guys? And even back then he was telling me, he's like, oh, probably Dariush had like the most like legit grappling credentials. So I think someone like Dariush would be a awesome matchup. He said that he could probably sort of do a lot more defensive stuff to trouble Islam on the ground, if not even attack off the back and make Islam uncomfortable. Then also you have someone like a Gilbert Burns, who's very, even though I don't think Burns would come back down to lightweight for that sort of fight, maybe a super fight down the line. If Islam does sort of get the belt, you could sort of give Islam, I'd love to see that fight, but I'm thinking Dariush should probably be sort of the best name for him at the moment.
For 100%. Sure. And Beneil's kind of got that old, I feel like he's got the old man strength like Glover too. So yeah. I'd love to see that go to the ground.
He's got the nice guy strength.
Nicest guy in the league. But yeah, as for Dan, jumping back to Dan, man, I don't think he loses too much from this. Like, he took a crazy opportunity on a few weeks' notice that not many people would, especially taking on someone like Islam. Made a boatload of money, bought his daughter a house, I think he said.
Yeah.
Goes home without taking too much damage. I think he come out a winner in this, and I don't think he loses anything from this, Dan.
No, especially seeing as he's been like, he wasn't at home for it. He didn't have his normal training partners. He was pretty much like he fought with Bolt. They'll out celebrate him the next week. Then boom, in 4 weeks time, you got to fight someone like Islam. Like, obviously Dan's an elite competitor. He's always ready. But that being said, like, he didn't have too much to lose realistically. Like, he came out of a fight, didn't cop any damage. I'm pretty sure like his shoulders, everything fine. Like, maybe his ego is hurt a little bit like that, but I'm sure the like paycheck he would have compensated greatly for that. And then he can always go back, restart from with the city. I don't know what City Kickboxing Boys plans are, but once he gets back home, then he can sort of do a full camp, and then he can sort of come back and see what next for him.
For sure, man. We'll touch on the last fight that I really want to dive into on this card because there's a bunch to get through for this upcoming weekend. But obviously, the return of Khamzat Chimaev versus Li Jingliang. Khamzat did it impressively as always. Round 1 submission. Man, did you see it going this way? It's been a while since we've seen Khamzat. Obviously with the COVID issues, and then when he did return, he had the trouble on the scales, which I was a bit weary about. Yeah, were you worried about him coming back, or did you, I guess, see it like this?
I wasn't too worried about seeing him come back. I know that COVID affected him pretty badly, but there's a few guys, like obviously I had that close experience with Volk having it, but then also guys like Cody Garbrandt had it extremely bad. Leon Edwards had it pretty bad. There's another name on the top of my head. I can't think of it right now, but there's been a few MMA guys that's had it bad. But as long as you take the time to recover in that, I don't think it's as big as factor as people sort of saying that. With the weight, I thought that was a bit iffy, but then again, like there's been plenty of guys who like easy something could have been like scales could have miscalculated or something like that. So I don't necessarily know if it was due to like a sort of a bad weight cut or health issue. Sometimes guys just, it takes an extra 40 minutes to cut half a pound than it did for all your other cuts. And even though, so you might be rocking up 40 minutes later than you normally do, the cut's still the same. It's just a timing difference or something that can make it back. When he missed it the first time, I was like, oh, I wonder how this is going. But seeing it was only half a pound, I didn't think that would make a difference. Now for the actual fight, I thought, man, once he grabbed him, it was just super impressive what he done. I would have liked to see Leach take a different game plan though, especially with someone like Khamzat, who you know is going to sort of want to look for that takedown. I don't think standing up and sort of coming forward with a 1-2 to open against a good wrestler is the smartest approach with someone like Khamzat. I think once he does fade a sort of a more high level guy, he's going to sort of realize like these guys aren't just going to rush in and try and punch and give him that shot. I feel like a good game plan would be to come out, touch the gloves, and then let Khamzat control the center where he want and start working off a back foot, flick things out, and don't let Khamzat get in to that takedown range straight away. Where Leach sort of came out, he tried to throw the big 1-2 and boom, it gave Khamzat a perfect opportunity, which is sort of 101. If you're going to fight a guy who gets it to the ground, you don't want to start the fight coming forward, shooting straight for the head. You want to sort of establish the low kicks, establish your body work, give them threats when they want to threaten the level change. A good example is like Dan Hooker, like just throw half committal knees up the center to sort of really sort of what would you say, get them hesitant to shoot sort of thing. Whereas Leach just came straight forward. Good on Khamzat. He picked him up. I didn't think he was going to have that much ground control where he picked him up, grabbed him 10 seconds later. He's talking to Dana, dumps him in the corner, and then just absolutely smothers him from there.
Sure. I think it's, man. And I think he will face some problems once he comes up against, you know, the real elite guys. And going off where welterweight landscape is right now, man, people are talking, I know names have been thrown out like Nate Diaz, Vicente Luque has been thrown out. A name that I really like for Khamzat is what you mentioned earlier, Gilbert Burns.
Yeah.
I think they match up well, but yeah, like Jingliang wasn't like, he wasn't a ranked guy. So I think for Khamzat, man, they got to slow the roll in terms of, and Nate Diaz makes sense because Nate Diaz is Nate Diaz. But I don't know. I like enjoying this ride with Khamzat, man, and I think we got to slow. I don't want to see him get shot straight to the top. Like they've even been talking about a title shot with Usman already, which is just bizarre. So I think we got to slow the roll. I do like the Nate Diaz fight. What do you like for Khamzat? Do you like them names?
I think that if you're a Khamzat fan, the Diaz fight would be top choice. I think Khamzat honestly pretty much squashes Diaz. After seeing Diaz and Leon, I rewatched that a couple of weeks ago, and Leon, even he was able to trip Diaz pretty comfortably on the feet, and even with the ground control, was able to hold him down, control his back and stuff like that. And Leon isn't known as a heavy grappler. I think if they give Diaz to Khamzat, I'm pretty sure it's just like, I don't think it's going to be as bad, but I would almost say it's like putting like almost a lamb out to slaughter. It's just going to be a big 100%. Name on Khamzat's resume. I don't think it's going to be a great challenge for him. Someone like Luque, on the other hand, or even someone like Burns, or even I was thinking maybe the winner of Chiesa and Brady coming up this week, because Shaw and Brady, they're both strong grapplers. They're both big, good guys for the division. They're both well established. And I think that I honestly would rather see him versus the winner of Chiesa and Brady. And then if he gets through them, then you can start talking like the top guys. Then you can be like, okay, we'll give him a Burns or a Luque, get through that. Then we can give him a title shot compared to someone like Diaz, whereas obviously we're all still going to watch it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Hamzat just goes out there and just ragdolls Diaz for a couple of rounds, even finishes him pretty early.
Yeah, I think that'll be the case for sure. Neil Magny's also been calling him out still. He's just they just ignore
committed to it, eh?
Yeah, I think that's a good one. He's ranked, and it's not the toughest matchup for Hamzat if they want to build him, because I feel like Dana wants to. He's on Hamzat's side for sure. So I think that would be a good next step. And then obviously, or the Brady Chiesa winner. Them type of dudes should be next. I reckon even 2 or 3 of them before you get to the Burnses and the Usmans and stuff.
I like that, man. I like the winner of Brady. I forgot about that fight, to tell you the truth. Chiesa and Brady, I think they both offer problems for Hamzat that we haven't really seen before, along with the guys down the track like Burns and stuff. But for sure, man, to move on from, I feel like we would talk about that card. It's almost 2 separate podcasts. We've got that much to talk about. Man. A couple of other performers on the card we had in the feature prelim. Amanda Hebus got the job done over Verna Jandiroba, walked out to Island Boy. I don't know if you've seen that, the shit on the Instagram of the Island Boy with Ariel Helwani. And
did she walk out to that song? Oh God, I didn't see that, eh?
Funniest thing ever, man. That content last week was fucking crazy.
Bro, Volko had a story listening to that the other day, actually.
He likes it, eh? He's pumped it at the gym like once or twice now.
That's
fucking funny, man. But I thought that was a funny little thing for the feature prelim. A tough guy, Andre Petrowski, got the job done. He submitted a dude in the 3rd round on the prelims there too. But we'll move on, my guy, to this weekend's stacked UFC card. We got UFC 268. Initially, I thought that this card wasn't getting as much hype as what it deserved, but I think that's just because we obviously had the UFC last weekend and had to digest all that. But later towards this week, man, it's starting to really pop off. The embeddeds have started, and I'm just jubbing for this whole card. Every fight on this main card is just unreal. But I want to get your thoughts. We'll start from the top again, man. Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington 2. I guess, are you excited for this rematch? As excited as I am. Are you happy that they went with Colby over Leon Edwards for the rematch? And all them questions. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I think it's interesting matchup. I think it's good that they gave Colby the fight rematch. It's pretty much going to put it to end. I think it's going to be good to see, because both these guys have changed gyms since their last fight, and they've both sort of, not so much Colby, but Usman has definitely sort of adapted and changed his style a bit more, whereas he was sort of a lot more just pressure coming forward. Now he's a lot more calculated on his feet. He's got a lot more footwork. He's working with a good coach with Trevor Whitman, and we've seen the leaps and bounds improve in his striking from sort of, just have you watched a couple of fights ago on the first Colby where he was pretty flat-footed and just happy to trade? Then you see him knocking out guys like Burns, switching stances, throwing stiff, strong jabs from both stances, and blitzing in against Masvidal to KO and him stiff, sort of thing. Like the improvements he makes working with Trevor Whitman has been greatly sort of I think it's going to really show in this fight compared to the first fight. We just have Colby, who's went to MMA Masters. We saw him fight Woodley after he changed his gyms. And then again, it was impressive what he's done, but it wasn't necessarily as impressive what Usman's done, because we've seen Woodley get dominated like that before. It wasn't like he went out there and he beat Woodley convincingly, but it wasn't something to the level what Usman's been doing, where he's been knocking out the likes of Burns, Masvidal, and that.
For sure. I want to ask, man, how much improvement? I know we haven't seen much of Colby, and what you said is pretty much the common storyline, I feel like, with this. We haven't seen much from Colby, but we've seen Usman improve leaps and bounds. I just want to ask, man, how much improvement can be made behind closed doors in the gym? Because that could also be a scary thought that we haven't seen Colby in this long actually in the octagon. So how much improvement can be made behind closed doors?
I don't think I want to put a percentage of it. I say there's probably like a good 30% chance that Colby could come out looking like a brand new fighter and just pretty much like not shock everyone, but people are going to be like, holy shit, this guy has been putting the work. Because what people don't understand is once you get to a certain level, a lot of the little things you do in the gym, they can translate really sort of greatly into a fight. Like Usman's a perfect example. We've seen the footwork stuff he was doing in the gym translate to his fighting skills. So who knows? Colby may have been making the same sort of significant jumps in his game or even greater jumps, but we just haven't seen that because he hasn't been fighting. I don't think Colby's the type of guy, like I've spoken to a few people who train with that, like, and they say he's just a workhorse. He's in the gym every single day, busting his ass, regardless, always learning, like cut out of a persona that he's just a pretty much true martial artist. His head's screwed on. He's got the right people around him. There's no yes man. He's trying to do everything right by the book. So I wouldn't be surprised if we come out and sort of see like a brand new Colby Covington out there. I think it's a possibility. The only problem is after seeing him fight Woodley, there wasn't a great improvement sort of thing. But then again, that might have been because they already had the strategy to beat Woodley where he didn't need to show off any new things. But whereas he might come out against Usman and he might have all these new tools and everything, new skills and new different game plans where it's going to make this fight look vastly different from the first fight.
And I think he had to though, right? Because if Usman obviously is still the champion, so his end goal is to get back to Usman. So and he didn't get it done last time, so he has to make these adjustments. And I think him being out of the spotlight for however long, I think his fight with Woodley was months, like it was a while ago. So I think that's a scary thought, man. And I think there's more to this than what people are thinking. People are seeing that common storyline of Marty Usman's had these 3 fights and shown improvements in his striking, but man, I think it's a scary thought. Colby not seeing anything from Colby, I think that's a very scary thought.
It is too, because you can't game plan as much with someone like Colby, because at least with Usman, you can sort of, okay, here are his footwork patterns. You're like, here's his new sort of defensive tendencies. Here's his new like attacking tendencies. There's a tape on there and there's a footage to study. Whereas if Colby can get himself familiar with that sort of stuff, it'll make him more comfortable. Whereas if Usman doesn't have anything to study except their last fight and the Woodley fight, and Colby comes out looking like a brand new fighter, you have Colby who already has half the reads on Usman just from studying him and sort of emulating him in training. Then Usman who has no reads on the new Colby because purely he hasn't fought someone like this before, and then he has to make the reads on the fly, which can play a factor in how the fight will play out.
For sure, that's super interesting storyline with this. But let's just say this normal storyline is right. Usman gets it done. Say finishes Colby. Where does that put Usman in the we'll say the welterweight GOAT discussion, but he's almost getting towards the GOAT discussion. But where's it put him? We'll start with the welterweight GOAT discussion.
It's always hard because GSP is just such a fan favorite and his resume sort of speaks for itself. I feel like Usman does need a few more title defenses, but right for now, the way it's looking, if he gets through Colby, there's not a lot of people really left for him to take on. Like you pretty much have, who would be the next one? Maybe Luke would probably be the newest sort of, someone like that. Yeah, Leon as well. And then, so say Usman go through Colby, it makes it look easier than the first fight, gets another 2 or 3 wins in that division. I think you do have to start saying maybe he is surpassing George St. Pierre and even Khabib, where it's just for active title defense. If he stays active, we might be having a chat in like 12 to 18 months down the line, talking Usman's 3, 4 title defenses plus from here, and we've got a new sort of GOAT on our hands.
That's what it's hard for him as well, because in the GOAT discussion, GSP is always at the top and he's the welterweight as well. So he's pretty much, the GOAT is in his weight class. So it's hard. So if he becomes the welterweight GOAT, he's basically the fucking GOAT anyway. So
yeah, that's a good point.
On
the other side though, man, what if we do see a new Colby and he comes out, he gets the job done? Does it call for a trilogy? I think it has to, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think if Colby gets it done, I think that's the only fight that makes sense. I was like, unless Usman's like extremely injured, and then you have Jorge or Leon get a quick KO, and it might be like 6-8 months down the line for Usman to come back, they can chuck Jorge or Leon in there because there's obviously bad blood with them against Colby. But I think if Colby gets it done, like I think, especially the way he's on the mic and that, I think the trilogy will just sell itself, sort of thing.
For me,
100%.
Honestly, I'm just thinking, I'm like, for me, I'm happy either way who wins, because like I love watching Usman be great and be. You love greats being great, like watching John Jones on the runs. But for me, man, I've been looking at the pound for pound rankings, and I see Usman's number 1, I see Volko's number 2. So I'm happy either way. So
Who dropped out?
If Colby beats Usman, I know Colby's not going to go to number 1, so that means Volko is going to jump to number 1 pound for pound. And I just think for Australia, and especially our area, man, that would just be the cherry on top, especially for Volko.
Spot on. Yeah, man. I was actually talking to someone not too long. I was like, don't get me wrong. If I have to pick, I think Usman's gonna win, but purely because how a pound for pound ranking was, I'm cheering for Colby. Like that's what I said. If Usman loses, he's gonna have to drop down a slot. Volker's gonna have to up a slot. Then how good would it be to say you got the pound for pound number one ranked fighter in the world in a local area, sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, also if depending on how say if Usman does lose, where he say if he drops to 3, then you got Izzy at number 2 as well. So your 2 pound for pound would be the 2 Australia, 2 Anzacs.
Anzacs, yeah.
Bro, that would just be for Australia and New Zealand. That would just be honestly the cherry on top. Like it's just awesome.
I'm such a Kamaru's fan, and now I'm going for Colby.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with it, man.
A little bastard.
We'll jump down to the co-main event, man. This card just keeps getting better and better. I'm so fucking excited for this fight. Another Trevor Whitman fighter. We got Rose number Yunus versus Whaley Zhang number 2. It's a rematch, man. I don't even know where to start for this. So my thoughts on it, man. The first fight ended by Rose capitalizing on a pattern obviously set by Zhang with how she was slipping back. She thought she was
checking a kick. Yep.
She thought she was checking a kick and got caught with a head kick. So we don't really know nothing on this fight. Really, and
it was too quick to get a read on anything.
I think it's the same storyline going in. Like, I don't know. It was so tightly contested. It was almost, and right now I know it's even odds. Like everyone thinks, some would say Rose, some would say Whaley. So I want to get your thoughts on it, man. Like, is it still that close? Is it gonna need to be a shot like that by a mastermind Trevor Whitman? I know you only set so many patterns and you can only capitalize on so many things like that. And I know Rose is the best in the game at that, but does it have to be something like that to separate them? How do you think these two match up?
That's the only thing I don't like about where you have the sort of 1 minute real quick KOs into the instant rubber matches. It's like they're pretty much doing that first fight again, because realistically anyone can get caught cold. Like even if you had good example would just be Connor and Aldo. If they did that immediate rematch, I guarantee the fight wouldn't play out the same way. Not saying Aldo might have won that, but it would have been a completely different fight for the first one. So who knows? Whaley might come out this one and dominate. However, the only thing I didn't like is, even though people do it, I still don't think the way Whaley was really sort of not excuse heavy, but she had a few sort of excuses and stuff like that, right? Don't think that's a good mentality to have as a champion. Where you see someone like Rose, when she lost the belt, she was like, oh, it's just this champion. Like she said a few things got to her, but she didn't say anything got to her about the actual fighting. It was more being the champion and that sort of stuff, which got to her mentality. Whereas Whaley was blaming like the fans. She doesn't like seeing people get injured beforehand, jet lag and stuff like that, which is all legitimate things. But at the end of the day, if you're a world championship fighter, you shouldn't have to have excuses for why you get caught cold. You should be able to say, oh no, I got caught cold. Shit happens. I want to prove I'll be the best in the rematch, sort of thing. However, how the fight plays out, I think it's tough. The thing I think the longer it goes, I think it may favor Whaley purely because Rose does have a tendency to fall off a little bit, especially in the high intensity fights with Whaley Rank. A good example is someone like Jessica Andrade in that third fight, where Rose was piecing her up for the first 2, and then she started to fade, and Andrade can turn it on. And Whaley is someone you don't want to fade. Just see her against Joanna. She's going to be in there for the 5 rounds. Whereas I think Rose needs to really sort of try and I think Rose can beat her over 5 rounds, but Rose needs to control the pace, the tempo, and she needs to fight her fight. If Whaley starts to make it a dogfight, starts to make it scrappy, initiates it through scrambles and stuff like that, I think we can see sort of Whaley pull ahead with a fight and then end up running away with her momentum. However, if Rose can come out, stay cool, calm, sort of collected, and sort of play her fight as soon as the first clapper goes and she's just on the ball, staying behind her jab, staying sharp with the kicks and everything, I think she could comfortably do it.
For sure. And that was the question. That was the question in the first fight. Hey, like for me, that was my worry after seeing Rose with Andrade, and Bo talks about it. He stresses out because he's like, man, Rose was starting to get caught towards the end there against Andrade. Like, you can't do that against Whaley. And that was the question in the first fight with Whaley. But like we said, we didn't get to see it go that long. And I think it's still the same question and the same worry for Rose. But like you said, man, I think if Rose is on and Rose is really on, in her own mentality, then I think she's almost unbeatable in that division.
Yeah, I agree. I think, yeah, Rose, I don't know, like you have these mythical fighters. I think like, well, I don't know what you say, like on Rose Namajunas is pretty much the best sort of 115, like female fighter out, like sort of like she's just, if she's on, her mentality is right. She's not in her own head or anything. And I watched a bit of her interviews, like she's saying now, she's saying all the right things. Whereas before she was saying she didn't like the pressure of being champion. Now she's saying she loves the championship. She loves the lifestyle. She loves like all the things that comes along. I feel like if she sort of comes out and if she can sort of show that she really is enjoying this process of everything, I think not only will she beat Whaley, I think she's going to knock off a lot of contenders for a long while to come.
And who is there? Say she does beat Rose, like
Carla Sparza's waiting,
and she to get that win back over her too. But like you look at Rose, you look at Whaley, and you look at Joanna. They're really 1A, B, and C. Like they're the top of the heap there. I know. I forgot her name. The fucking rest of that.
Suarez.
Suarez. Yep.
I know she would obviously once she's healed, and she will pose a different threat. But I think who else is there? Like for me, I could watch them three, Joanna, Whaley, and Rose, just bang it out.
Triple threat.
Week after week. Triple threat. I'm going to watch them bang it out fight after fight, man. So I'm not sure who else is out there besides them.
I think that's the hard thing with a sport like MMA is sometimes you do get these sort of outliers where you have someone like Rose, Joanna, and Ray Lee, where they're just the top 3 of their division, where it's just going to be them 3, I should say, in that trifecta where like rock beats fucking scissors beats paper, and it just goes around like that sort of thing. Same thing, a perfect example would be the featherweight. If Max gets through Yair, Volko's beat Max twice. However, it just proves that some divisions, there's just people that are elite, they're a cut above the rest. But I think that's also what makes the sport so great, because some people, they underappreciate when you have people at such a high level until you see them, what they can do to other competitors. So say Rose gets through Whaley and it's a dogfight, she gets it done. Then you might see her fight someone like Carla Esparza and gets it done in the first round or 2, and like, fuck, man, just how good is Rose? When you can really start to appreciate the sort of champions that they are.
The great example of that is Volko against Ortega, man. It's like Volko is so underappreciated with the Max fights because everyone loves Max, but until they put him against someone like Ortega, when Ortega's been doing work, knocking out Frankie Edgar and the zombie fights, then you really realize how good the real top of the heap is at featherweight and obviously at flyweight with these guys. Flyweight,
yeah, exactly right.
But we'll move down the card, man. We got the third Trevor Whitman guy, which intrigues me about this whole card, that Trevor Whitman's got his top 3, well, really his only 3 fighters at the top of the main card here, which is interesting. But
actually, it's changed. I saw it earlier there. So Gaethje and Chandler opening the main card now to give Trevor more time.
Yeah,
they're opening the card now.
For Trevor?
It's for Whitman. He requested it, and they agreed to it. So I think it's Gaethje, Chandler, then Edgar, Vera, then Burgos, Kronfiller, then the next 2 Whitman fighters. So it works out better that way.
Yeah, 100%.
It almost makes it more like I just lean more toward Trevor Whitman guys now that I know that he.
Yeah, so do I, to be honest.
I'm like, fuck, it's a perfect storm, man. But we'll digest this fight anyway. We've got Gaethje,
for sure.
Michael Chandler. For me, I'm wrapped with this. I think as soon as I heard Chandler was coming to the UFC, I thought, and you look at the lightweight guys, you're like, I need to see him fight Justin Gaethje. straight up. And now it's finally happening. I'm stoked on a personal note as a fan of Chandler and a fan of Gaethje. What are your thoughts on the matchup?
And I think it has like fight of the year contender written all over it, to be honest. Like, I wish this fight were 5 rounds. It's a shame that it's 3, but who knows? 3 might be better because it might just be that straight explosive, just straight bloodbath sort of war sort of thing. I think it's going to be interesting to see how. I think the biggest factor will be how Chandler can cope with the leg kicks and also whose chin will hold up the best. As we have seen before, even a good example is Hooker versus Chandler. Hooker didn't get the win. Then he got like 2 or 3 calf kicks, and you can see they noticeably started to affect Chandler. And Gaethje has some of the hardest kicks in that division. Also, both of their chins are ridiculous sort of thing. Like Gaethje, I feel like both these fighters are going to get rocked. However, I think Gaethje recovers better from being rocked. Even though Chandler hits like an absolute truck, I still think Gaethje's one guy. Like, I don't think you can just one hit KO him. I think it has to be like that accumulative effective damage. Whereas I think we've seen Chandler get dropped by lesser shots, and I think Gaethje hits pretty hard. So purely off that, I think Gaethje, I'm favoring Gaethje, but then again, Chandler's just an absolute freak athlete and a specimen sort of thing. And you see like his work ethic, his like will to win and everything. It's like, it's almost a cut above the rest. Like his drive and his internal belief is just ridiculous. So I'm thinking Gaethje, but man, who knows? I'm just excited for this fight.
Talking about Chandler, man, Chandler deserves some more credit for. He cops a bit of flack, surprisingly, but I think he deserves more credit, man. He come into the UFC with one mission, and he was clear with it. He's like, I'm coming to be the UFC champion. Timed it perfectly. Took a fucking terribly hard stylistic matchup in Dan Hooker. Got the easy win, and then charges for the legit dark horse of the division in Charlie Olives. Almost got the job done in the first round, come up short, and now he's tackling someone like Gaethje. And I'm just like, I think he deserves more credit, and I think we'll appreciate it depending on how this fight plays out. We'll really appreciate Chandler after this.
Yeah, exactly right. Like you said, he's not taking the easy road whatsoever. Like, he could have taken a top 10 guy, top 5, then started working his way, but he came in straight away, Dan Hooker. He pretty much 10-8 Charles Oliveira in that first round. He got caught and got subbed in, like, and finished in a second. So like, that happens against the elite level guys. But I think this fight's going to sort of really showcase like his ability and really get the sort of fans appreciating like the talent and like the pure athlete and actual like high quality fighter he is, sort of thing.
For sure. Another little interesting thing that I'm trying to pay attention to in this fight is like Mike Chandler's a phenomenal wrestler. And we've got Gaethje that almost has like the infamous defensive wrestling that was so hyped over the Khabib, the Khabib build up. It was all about his defensive wrestling. I feel like this might be, we talk about the fireworks and we talk about him on the feet, but I don't know. I feel like this could be the fight where we finally get to see Gaethje wrestle off his back. I know Khabib's a terrible example because Khabib's Khabib, but I think this might be the fight where we get to see Gaethje show his infamous defensive wrestling. And I think it's a little interesting fact, and I hope, I do want to see him bang it out, but I also want to see it on the ground, and I want to see how their wrestling matches up.
Yeah, exactly right. I do think it would be a good strategy for Chandler if he is content on trying to take Gaethje's head off. He needs to mix in the level changes and that, because it's a punch you don't see coming that knocks you out. So if he can get a few takedowns, even if they get sprawled, all he needs with his athleticism is for Gaethje to drop his hand to defend that takedown for half a second, and then boom, he's going to come up, throw them looping hooks and looping overhands, and he can really catch him. And that might be one of the shots where we actually do see Gaethje just get flat out, where the hands come down to defend the shots. Late in like second, third round, when that fatigue's really setting in, Chandler's still explosive and he can fake the level change, come up. Or we might see Gaethje just be sort of, like you said, that defensive wrestling can just show. Chandler shoots in and he just shrugs him off. Or who knows, we might be underselling Chandler wrestling here. He might be able to just get his shots, get Gaethje on the back and just do damage from the top, sort of thing.
That's an interesting thing. Well, you see how much of a threat it is when you see the way Dan Hooker tried to attack Chandler, and he was so weary of the takedown. Is obviously one of the reasons why he got caught with that loop and overhand, because Chandler's wrestling is such a threat that you got to be weary and you got to be backing up. So I'm intrigued how it plays out. Do you think the winner gets a title shot as well?
Yeah, they have to. I think I don't see who's Poirier's schedule. Oh no, Poirier's fighting Olive
Charles,
Portugal.
yeah.
For the belt.
So unless that, now even if that fight's a super competitive fight, I think they have to sort of thing.
Yeah.
Especially unless Poirier goes out and but then again, I would love to see fucking Poirier and Gaethje again. Like man, I think they should get a title shot because I think either way how these matchups plays out, I think even Chandler versus Oliveira, like even though we've just seen that, like I'd love to see it again. Considering how polar opposites the first round was to the second round, I'd love to see them two do it again.
100%.
I don't know if it's the same thing. Yeah, I don't think that fight goes the same way 10 times over. It's probably 5-5. And I think that's the story of lightweight, though, the top five. Hey, it's kind of like that. Similar to bantamweight, anyone can get it done on the day. So they're the big fights, the bigger fights on the card, man. There's a few other fights I'm keen for personally. We mentioned one earlier, Frankie Edgar versus Cheetah Vera. What's your first take on that matchup? I think for Cheetah, man, he's had a few opportunities. Like he had the Aldo fight and he couldn't capitalize on it. Do you think he matches up well with Frankie Edgar?
I think he does, but the only problem with Frankie is he's a guy you can never count out. Like Frankie's the type of guy he's always going to be in there. Even though we saw him get sort of starched by Sandhagen by that flying knee, I think if that fight went on longer, it would have been a lot more competitive because Frankie's a very hard guy to fight. Frankie's been in there with Aldo for 20. He's been in there with Holloway for 25. He's not the sort of guy you can get in there and sort of, unless you can do something spectacular like that, he's not the type of guy you're just going to go out there and sort of get through super quickly. So I think it's a good test for Cheetah. However, it's hard to read against Frankie because he is just such that, what would you say, just that well-experienced sort of veteran. And we've seen Cheetah, how he fights against these guys where he hasn't been able to really capitalize on it. If he does get it done, I think it will sort of show the growth of Cheetah. However, I think Frankie's a hard task for him.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Is there any other fights on this card that you would recommend to keep an eye out for? There's a couple that on my end that I'm like jonesing for personally, but I want to know if there's any little sneaky ones.
Yeah, so I'll go early prelims. Chris Barnett versus Gian Vellante, purely because Chris Barnett is super entertaining. Like I was lucky enough to see him live too. Like don't get me wrong, he gasses pretty quick, but he's an entertaining guy. Like his athleticism and stuff's good. Edmund Shabazian versus, I'm gonna butcher this, but Nasri Ivanov or whatever. Like that's also a good fight. Edmund's coming off a few, I think it's 2 or 3 fight losing skid. However, he's a very game fighter. He's very well rounded, and it's a good test for.
I think I'm stoked to see Edmund take that step back, though. I think he almost got like the Darren Till got pushed too fast, and he was doing main events against the Brunsons and stuff. You see where Brunson's at now. I think this is a perfect step back for Edmund. There's no limelight on him this time, and he can just hopefully get a cheeky win in the prelims and then work his way back up.
Yeah, spot on. Then you got like Phil Hawes, who's always an entertaining fighter. He's always explosive. Then you got, I didn't realize, Alec Quinton versus Bobby Green. That's just another 2 sort of lightweight, like almost OGs. That's a guaranteed banger. Then obviously you got Alex Pereira, who comes out off a knockout win over Izzy. I think they're sort of giving him a bit of a gimme. I looked at the other guy, and I think it was 12-4 or something, but he's got 4 knockout losses. So I think Pereira should be hoping for that sort of spectacular knockout, and they can slowly build him up like that. But yeah, man, I didn't realize this card is so fucking stacked.
Right.
It's so good.
I think, and there's a reason you talk about Alex Pereira there. There's a reason he's the feature prelim, and I think UFC know exactly what they're doing.
They're trying to build him.
They know exactly what they're doing, and they know. Oh man. And
well, did you see his MMA debut? I don't know if it's MMA debut. I forgot what promotion. Yeah, and he knocked the dude out. Dude was out for like fucking 3 minutes. They thought he was like dead. He's got like Francis power in his hands, man. He's scary.
Yeah. I remember I watched a video. I think it's Alex Pereira has the like scariest left hook in MMA or something.
Yeah.
And it was just him for 3 minutes straight, just left hooking people. Some are this short, and you just see
Yeah.
people go stiff, sort of thing. Like that bloke has bricks for hands.
Yeah.
Such a death.
I'm
man.
excited for that. So excited.
Such a death. Yeah, I think you're spot on, man. This card, I just can't wait. Like it's gone under the radar a little bit because, like I said, we had the UFC last weekend, man. But I just can't wait. The embeddeds have already started. Can't wait for the press conference, the shit chat with Colby and Usman, man. The countdowns, all of it. I'm juicing about this one, man. We'll see. Where are you at now? So we'll jump to you quickly, man. Any fight news on your end? You know, the world's opening back up for us finally. Where are you at? You have anything in the works?
Nothing yet. I got my name down on the Urban Fight Night for the 17th. However, I put it down for bantamweight, and there's been sort of no matchups available, that sort of thing. That offered me a fighter 145, but I've been like good diet and everything. So like realistically, maybe if I was an amateur, I wouldn't mind taking that jump back up. But right now I'm pretty sort of stringent. I'm pretty strict on like, no, I want to fight in my natural division. I want to sort of get used to the cuts, get everything and do everything right, sort of thing. Like, especially seeing as I'm hoping I can get a fight in there, but if not, as you said, the world is opening up, then I'm sure there's going to be an eternal card, probably early January, early February sort of thing. I'm in camp now, training and dieting for it. So hopefully something comes up, but if not, I can just use this camp as sort of like almost like a pre-camp to jump straight back into the next one. And then hopefully when the borders open up to Queensland, I can get on more Eternal, because how Eternal works, they're more willing to fly guys in a state and stuff like that. So I'll be able to find more matchups like that. Victoria's opened up, so I can always go down to Hex and that. There's a few people over in Perth and that as well, but who knows when Perth's going to be open. That's going to be a while down the line. But fingers crossed I can get on the 17th for Urban. But if not, I'm looking at right now, like pretty much I'll take a fight pretty much from December onwards. I just want to fight. I just want to get a bantamweight fight out there and get back in the sort of competitive scene of things.
Bro, I fucking pray you get on that Urban Fight Night. We do some of the promotion shit for them, so we'll probably be there as well.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, even if I don't get a fight, I'm going to be up there anyway, purely because we already got 3 boys from freestyle on the card, so we're already getting like a good team in that around for it. So it should be a good night.
Yeah, that's sick, man. Exciting times. Like you said, the world's opening back up. My fingers are crossed that you get on the Urban Fight Night. It would obviously as a bantamweight fight, like you said, it would be silly to take a featherweight fight, especially jumping into the pros, man. But I'm excited for you, man. I'm excited for what 2022 has for you, man. We're going to be in your corner as always. You're always going to have a platform here to be able to say whatever you want, whenever you want, talk some shit, call some people out. But I'm excited, man. So that's all we got today, brother. I think we're an hour in. We talk some shit, and I'm excited, man. Thank you for doing this, Colby. We appreciate it as always, and we'll definitely be chatting soon, man.
Legends, thanks for having me on.
The couch is uncut with Callum, Sponge and Bo, talking everything, lifestyle, sports as well, with self-development and everything in between. These boys got what you need.